I'm going to show you how I draft a basic bodice pattern. To draft this pattern, you're going to need a variety of tools. First, you're going to be needing pattern paper. I am using craft paper here, but if you can get dotted pattern paper, that's even better. You will need lots of rulers. This one, I have it because it's really long and I just like the design of it. So I have this, but if you have a meter ruler, then it will be a great replacement for this. Actually, it's much better than this. You will also need a right angle ruler, a regular ruler, preferably one that has grid lines on it like this, a French curve for drawing those armholes and necklines, a tape measure for measuring yourself or your dress form or your client and for making measurements on your pattern, a pencil to draw with or tailor's chalk, and then I have a marker here so that I can make my lines bolder so that you guys will be able to see them. A marker will also come in handy when you are labeling your pattern. To draft this bodice pattern, you need the following measurements. First up is the full length, and this is from your waist to your shoulder at the base of your neck. Next, you need your across shoulder measurement, which is from one shoulder point to the other shoulder point. Next, you need your center front length, which is from the base of your neck at the front of your body to your waist at the front of your body. Next, you need the bust arc, which is from your center front over your bust to below your armhole. You need your shoulder slope, which is from the tip of your shoulder to your waist at the center. The bust depth, which is from the tip of your shoulder to your bust point, which is pretty much your nipple. And then you need your shoulder length, from the tip of your shoulder to the base of your neck. Now you need the bust span, and that's from one nipple to the next. You need your across chest measurement, which is your center front to the middle of your armhole. Then you need your dart placement. This is from your center front to the princess line. You need the side length, which is an inch below your armhole, measuring to your waist at the side of your body. You need your back and front waist arc. Your front waist arc is from your center front to your side at the waist level, and your back waist arc, which is usually smaller than your front waist arc, is from your center back to your side at the waist level. Center back length. This is from the root of your neck at the back all the way down to your waist at the back of your body. You need your back arc, which is from the center back to the back of your armhole. Your back neck, which is from your center back at your neck to the shoulder, to your shoulder. And finally, you need your across back measurement, which is from the center back to the mid armhole. And you will need paper scissors. If you have a meter ruler, it will be a great replacement for this because it's much longer and you're going to have to do some very long lines. In my description, you can also find a link to get all these rulers. They came in a set and they come in very handy for pattern drafting. The first thing you're going to do is to draw a vertical line that represents the full length of your bodice. That's the first measurement that you took earlier on. And I'm just gonna draw my line as dark as possible so that you guys will be able to see it. After drawing your vertical line, you're going to measure and mark your full length on it. I got a measurement of 19 inches. When drawing this line, you want to be sure to add an extra 1/8 of an inch. 1/8 of an inch on your tape measure is literally from one of these points to the other. 1/4 of an inch is from here to here. 1/2 of an inch is from here to here. 3/4 of an inch is from here to here. And these tiny points in here represent 1/8. So this is 1/8, this is 3/8, this is 5/8, and this is 7/8. This is 1/4, this is 1/2, and this is 3/4. From here, you're going to measure and mark your across shoulder measurement, but because we're only drafting 1/2 of the pattern, we're going to take just 1/2 of the across shoulder measurement and put that here. I got 15 inches, and that would mean that I'm going to be putting 7.5 here on my pattern paper, except the book instructs us to add less 1/8 of an inch. So that means that you need to minus 1/8 of an inch from your measurement before drawing it. So that would land me about here. So that would be 7 3/8. I'm now going to square a line going across. And this is where the right angle ruler is going to come in handy because you're going to be doing a lot of squaring. And then from this line, I'm going to measure and draw a line 3 inches down, also at a right angle. And I love this ruler because it has a grid on it, and it also has all the numbers that can help you to be able to accurately draft patterns. This is giving hangman right now. From here going up, you're going to measure and mark your center front length. For me, that's 15 inches. And I'm going to square out from that mark 4 inches. From here, going over here at the base of the pattern, you're going to measure your bust arc, but you're also going to add 1/4 of an inch. I got a measurement of 11.5. Adding 1/4 to that would make it 11 3/4. So I'm just going to make my mark here. And I'm going to use this ruler to square across to that mark. I'm also going to square up from this line by 11 inches. The next line that we're going to be drawing has to touch this one. So you want to make sure the next line that we're going to draw has to touch this one, and it's the shoulder slope. So before drawing it, you want to make sure that when you're measuring, it touches this. So you go from the corner here and you bring your tape measure up to that 18-inch point, but you're also going to be adding 1/8 of an inch. So instead of just putting 18, which is my shoulder slope measurement, I'm going to put 18 1/8. So that would fall here. And that makes it so that my shoulder slope line touches this line perfectly. This is where a super long ruler will come in handy, but I'm just gonna connect my 2 rulers so that I can completely draw that line. So then I can remove this one and I can draw my line. From here, you're going to measure your bust depth. From here, you're going to measure your bust depth. I got a measurement of 10.5. This used to be 9.5, but I'm a mom now, so I guess things are very different. But I'm going to mark my bust depth right here, 10.5. And this is pretty much where your nipple would fall. From here, you're going to measure up to this line, your shoulder length. I got a measurement of 5.5. So I'm just going to draw to this point right here. And then I'm going to use my ruler again and draw a right angle line that will touch this line right here. Using my right angle ruler again, I'm going to come down here to the bust point and I'm going to make a line going through it, coming over to here. This will be your bust span plus 1/4 inch. Since my bust span is 7 inches, I'm going to be dividing that by 2 because this is only a half of the front of the bodice. So that's going to be 3.5 plus 1/4 inch. So that would be 3 3/4, which would be right here. So I could erase this part of my line. You're now going to find the halfway point between here and here. So you can take your tape measure and put the metal tip of it on top of this line right here. Bring it down to this line and then you're going to fold it to meet the line that you just worked on. And wherever the fold ends up, that's where you're going to put a mark. At this mark, you're going to measure your across chest. This for me was a total of 7 inches. And to that, you want to add 1/4 inch. And from here, you want to square a line going up and down. Down here, you're going to measure your dart placement. That was 3.5 inches for me. And according to the book, we're gonna square down 3/16 inch from this point. Between here and here is 1/16. Between here and here is 3/16. So it's pretty much almost 1/4 inch. And for me, because I'm a rule breaker, I'm just gonna measure 1/4 inch down from that line. And I'm gonna draw like so. So it's the tiniest little line, the tiniest. This might be looking very confusing right now, but stick with me. I promise it gets better. There is one measurement that I forgot to tell you about, which is the new strap measurement, which is what we're about to do right now. But if there are any measurements that you're not able to take for yourself or you forgot to take, then you can look at this standard measurement chart that is on page 40 and you'll find the new strap measurements at number 8. So I'm going to be using 18 5/8 for my new strap measurements because I forgot to take that. That's pretty much going to intersect this line right here. So you're going to measure from here going down plus 1/8 inch. That would pretty much be 18 3/4 for me. So I'm just gonna put that at the tip of my neck right there and just bring this so that it will intersect with this line right here for me. And I wanna make sure that's bold enough so that you guys can see it. I'm gonna measure from here going up to represent my side length, which is 8.5. And that just goes a little bit beyond the line that I already had there. So I'm just gonna extend this. From here, I'm going to mark 1.25 inch. That is right here. And I'm going to direct the side length line from here to here to here instead. And I'm making sure that it's the same length. So since this is 8.5, I'm gonna make sure that the line is 8.5 from here to here as well. 8.5, boom. And I'm just gonna use this ruler to draw my line because it's long enough to actually meet. So from here, I'm gonna measure and mark my waist arc plus 1/4 inch. My waist arc is 9 inches. And I'm gonna add 1/4 inch to my waist arc, which would make it 9.25. But you're also supposed to minus the measurement that you have from here to here from this measurement. So because this space is 3.5, I'm going to minus that from 9.25, and then I'm going to minus 1/2. So that would be 5.25. So I'm going to measure and mark 5.25, and that falls right here. Now I'm going to draw a line from here to here, and that's going to come all the way down to this point that we drew here with the 3/16. Then I'm going to measure from here to here, 7.25, and transfer that line to over here. So I'm going to put the same exact length over here, and that actually works out to exactly where I put my mark. You're going to measure 5/8 inch from the top of this dart. That would be here. So 5/8 is right after 1/2 inch. That would be right here. And you're going to redraw your dart legs. So now you're going to draw slightly curved lines from here to here and from here to here. So I'm going to do this one first, and if you notice, I'm using the back of my French curve. So you draw a line here and another one right here. You want to make sure that these two lines are the same length. So this one is no longer valid. And I'm just going to use my eraser to just rub this out so that you guys don't get confused. The next thing we're going to do is to draw the armhole and the neck hole. But based on the measurements that you got, your pattern may be looking very different from what's inside the book. So if it does look different, you want to go ahead and put your French curve so that it's touching the tip of the shoulder right here and this line. And it should also touch this line, and you should be able to draw a smooth curve. But my lines right here are very close to each other. So seeing that they're this close, I am going to have to do some tweaking. So if you end up in the same position as me, you can make these tweaks as well. I know that this book is not as straightforward for everyone, so I'm really happy that I'm able to explain this to you guys. So if you find that these two lines are too close to each other, you can lower this by 1 inch, but that would mean that you also have to add 1 inch down here. So you're just going to draw that back, and you're going to re-establish this line right here. After that, you can go ahead and draw a right angle line here. So you're essentially squaring out from this line. If your French curve isn't touching this line, then you might want to remeasure and check to make sure that your across chest measurement is accurate. I'm just adding an extra 1/2 inch to mine, drawing this line, and then re-establishing the squared line that was right here. And it still doesn't touch perfectly, but it's close enough. So I'm just gonna go ahead and draw my armhole, or my armhole curve, I should say. The next thing is to add a neck curve also using the French curve. So if you are like me and your pattern is not looking like it is in the book, don't worry. Just use your French curve to find the best possible fit. So it doesn't have to look exactly how it looks in the book. You just want to make sure that you have a natural enough neck curve. And this looks natural enough to me, so I'm just going to go ahead and draw my line. That is going to be my neck curve. So just to make this a lot simpler for you guys, I'm going to go ahead and erase all the unnecessary parts because this pretty much completes the front of the bodice pattern. To add allowance, I'm going to add a 1/2 inch around my pattern. This is going to be the center front, so it doesn't need allowance because it's going to be placed on the fold. As for the dart, when adding allowance to it, you want to go ahead and find the center and you're going to continue this line. So finally, for the front of the bodice, you want to label front of bodice. And then here I'm going to put center front. And this symbol reminds me to put this on the fold. I'm also going to write the date that I'm drafting this pattern. On this, you also want to put your size. I'm not going to put a number size. I'm just going to use this right here as my reference to know when exactly I drafted this pattern, so I'll know exactly what size I am at that specific point. Then I'm gonna cut it from my pattern paper. I'm now going to draft the back of the pattern. Just like we did with the front of the bodice, you're going to draw a vertical line, and on that vertical line, you're gonna draw the full length again. For me, that's 19. And from here to here, I'm going to add my across shoulder measurement divided by 2. I'm going to square across and I'm going to square down by 3 inches. So we have another hangman situation here. From here, I'm going to measure my center back length, which is 16. And then I'm going to square out by 4 inches. Down here, I'm going to measure and draw my back arc plus 3/4 inch, which in this case is 10 3/4. And I'm going to draw a line going across to meet that mark. And I'll square up from this line. You don't have to square by a specific amount here. You can just square up. On this line, I'm going to measure and mark my back neck measurement plus 1/8 inch. So that's going to be 4 1/8. So it extends just a little bit further. I'm going to go from this point here and measure up my shoulder slope But of course, I want to make sure that it's touching this line again. So it brings us all the way up here, 18 and 1/8. And I'll take my ruler. So you just go like that and draw a line. I'm just gonna make this bolder so that you guys can see it. There we go. On this line up here, I'm going to measure the same amount that's right here. So that's 4 and 1/8 of an inch. That falls right here. And from this line, I'm going to measure my shoulder length. So that would be 5.5. That goes here. And it's completely okay if your line passes this one right here. But after you're done with that, you're gonna square a line coming down to this one. For me, that's 3.5. And the next step is going to require some math. On this line, you're going to measure from here, your waist arc. I have a waist arc of 7 inches, but you're supposed to add 1.5 inches to that, plus 1/4 of an inch. So we got 7, 7.5, plus 1/4 of an inch. So that's 8 3/4. So I'm gonna measure from over here to here, 8 3/4. And from here to here, you're going to measure 1.5 inches. If you're drafting this pattern for a petite person or for a child, then you're gonna measure 1 inch here instead. You wanna find the center point between here, and in that case, that would be 3/4 of an inch for me. On this line, you want to measure and mark down 3/16 of an inch. So that would come to about here. 3/16 of an inch. You want to measure and mark down on this point right here. And then from here, you're going to draw the side length and it's going to intersect here. So that for me would be 8.5. That's pretty much to the end of this ruler. From this point, you're going to square a line coming up that is 1 inch less than this. So that would be 7.5 inches. And then you're going to draw dart legs from here to here and here to here. But you want to make sure that you pass these points by about 1/8 of an inch. I'm just going to use my tape measure to mark that, which is really the tiniest amount. You're going to divide this line in half. And then starting from up there, you're going to divide this measurement. And since we know that this is the halfway point, we're going to take the tip of the tape measure and fold it to that halfway point and mark here. From here, we're going to measure and draw the across back measurement plus 1/4 of an inch. So that would be 8.25. And you're going to square up and down from this measurement, just like we did on the front bodice piece. And then we're going to draw the armhole curve. And this one lines up much better than the one before. So you want to make sure that it touches the shoulder tip as well as this squared point here and the side seam. You also want to take your French curve and draw a curved line right here. You're going to draw a slight curved line here with the dart legs. And just to make this less confusing for you guys, I'm going to erase this. Of course, I'm adding a 1/2 inch allowance going all the way around this pattern. And on the side where a zipper or a closure would go, I am adding more than 1/2 of an inch. I'm adding 3/4 of an inch. And that's just to give myself as much space as possible. As soon as I was done drafting this pattern, I went ahead and cut out all the pieces and stitched it all together so I could test the fit to see how it works. And I'm liking the results. If you try your bodice on and you realize that anything needs to be adjusted, then leave those in the comments down below and I will address those in another video. If this was helpful, give it a thumbs up, subscribe to Sew Quaint if you haven't already, and share this with a sewing friend.